Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Carter. I'm the Editorial Director at Clarion Gaming, and I'll be chairing today's IGB webinar. We're delighted to be hosting a webinar today with Catena Media, discussing the role of affiliates in US online gambling. Affiliates in the US play a key role in the online gambling ecosystem. Americans are often either new to online gambling or familiar only with offshore betting brands. Affiliates therefore provide much needed education in what is an immature market, online sports betting only having started to proliferate in the last 3 years, with online casinos still confined to a handful of jurisdictions. Today's webinar will explore why affiliates are so valuable to operators in the industry as it expands in the US, and the importance of news and information in this. Our speaker today is Dustin Guka, who's Head of Content US at Catena Media. I'll let Dustin introduce himself fully shortly. There'll be a Q&A section following the presentation, so please do submit some questions as we go along. We'll try to address as many of them as possible in the allocated time. With that, I'm going to pass over to Dustin to introduce himself, and then I'm going to crack on with the questions. Over to you, Dustin.
Cheers. Thanks for the introduction. Like you said, my name is Dustin Gauker. I am the head of news content over here at Catena Media. I guess we should say North America these days, because Canada may be legalizing single game sports betting, and we have a lot of employees that are based in Canada. But I'll run through the quick slides. I know nobody loves slides, but we'll run through who we are and what we do here at Catena Media. I know a lot of affiliates are watching, so you can tune this out, but if you know who we are. But for those who don't, we are a network of sites that focus on online gambling in the United States. Our company is probably not terribly well known in the United States, but our brands are increasingly well known. You'll probably recognize me from legalsportsreport.com. That is a site that I helped build kind of from scratch circa 2015, well before the US legalized sports wagering here in the US. Oops. There we go. So we have that. It's a site that is an industry leader in terms of reporting on what is going on in sports betting in the United States. We have informational pages across that as well that try to inform people both on the regulatory side and on the consumer side of what's going on with sports betting. Some of our other brands, onlinepokerreport.com is actually an older site, even focuses more on online casino and poker in the United States. Some of our state branded sites in the Play Network, Play USA is the overarching network, but we have Play NJ, Play Pennsylvania, which focus granularly on what is going on in sports betting and online casino in both those states, as well as Play Michigan, which you're probably aware it just launched online casino and sports betting on Friday. And then we have a consumer facing site that's thelines.com, which is sports betting information and news, and that's the top level. We have a lot more sites than that, but those are the ones that are kind of more well known. So what we do in the US affiliate market, we are probably the largest one in terms of scale here in the US. The Catena Media in Europe is a large organization too that has operations in a lot of regulated markets over there. We are the US arm of that. We put out probably more scale in terms of sites and content than any other affiliate in the US right now. We take a journalistic approach to what we do. Good content breeds being a good affiliate, I think, and that's what I think we've proven that over time here in the US with what we've done. Legal Sports Report, for instance, again, we started that well before sports betting was even a thing. It was based mainly around the daily fantasy sports industry, and then grew beyond that. So what we do, we provide operators with players. So we have on the news facing side what we do. That's not a conversion element, but we do that to breed trust and to breed what's telling people what's good about what's going on in the market in the US. So on the flip side of that, we provide customers to operators in the US, and what we do and the way we do it, it provides largely high value players to those operators in the US. So we are paid based on when you get a first-time depositor. We are a growing organization here in the U.S., but we are still pretty nimble in what we can do. We can kind of react to things a little better and faster than operators do, and sometimes we do things and create content that that the operators themselves can't do. Sorry, my screen's being a little wonky today. All right. So the value of affiliate, again, we'll run through this quick because a lot of you do know this. We're experts and provide feedback on what's going on, both for operators and for the user. We can optimize for conversion. We can target terms that you may not be able to as an operator, or we can rank for things that an operator may not be able to. So we do that. It's interesting. I've found over time that we actually, because we rank so well for a lot of operator terms, people think we are the operators. Sometimes I get all of our contact us emails, and people think because of the trust and the way the sites are built that we are the operators, which is is sometimes concerning, but it's also to the trust that we engender as affiliates. We're low risk. We get paid based on performance. You're not paying us unless we provide customers. We educate players. This is, I think, the real key thing in the U.S. right now, because you're still offshore operators have not gone away. They've probably actually grown during all of this. We help explain the process of getting started. We can, again, we can battle both the offshore affiliates and the sportsbooks and casinos themselves, and teach users and disrupt those SERPs that have for a long time belonged to offshore operators. We build trust with users. Talked about that a little bit too already, but we provide as much information we can. We try to be unbiased in that, even though we are working with this. It's not that different from a traditional advertising model in that regard. But we're providing information about everyone, and we're writing news content about everyone, whether we work with them or not. Again, we're fast. We can pivot just quickly. And the last one is something that we haven't really gotten into, but it's something that's been that others in the space have done well, building communities. Here in the U.S., there are several good examples of this. RotoGrinders probably being the greatest example in terms of building a daily fantasy sports community and sports betting community where people can talk to each other on forums and other means. So that's the basics of being an affiliate, and I will get into more interesting stuff with the questions that Stephen has.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, fantastic. I mean, you've kind of started on that, speaking about that there, really. I mean, my opening question is really, why are affiliates so valuable to operators in the industry as it expands in the US?
I mean, I hit on it. Was for me, it's the education aspect. You're not just going to open the doors here in the US and expect people to know that sports betting is legal, how it's legal, what operators are correct, because there is, we are now 2.5 years after the fall of the federal sports betting ban in the Supreme Court outside of Nevada. So, a lot of people of that day were in the wake of that really just thought sports betting is legal everywhere. So it was open season in terms of that. So that education piece to me is huge. I still have people in my mentions on Twitter and elsewhere, and who contact me who just think sports betting is legal everywhere. That the Supreme Court decision is like, open season, it's not, it's legal everywhere, and that's not the case. And it's that's a battle in education. Feels like we've been doing this for a while, but really 2.5 years, not very long. We're still learning, and people are still learning. Even as we open in new markets. We have a writer in Virginia, for instance, who he has friends who they were not aware that legal sports betting was a thing. They already betted offshore sites. They thought, oh, this is all good. I'm just going to continue doing that. And they had to be told by our employee, their friends, that, hey, you have legal options that are now regulated in Virginia. So that's the big piece. And the flip side of that is also that the offshore companies, I saw a press release the other day saying all this betting in legal markets is bad news for offshore operators. I'm not so sure that's the case. I'd imagine that they've actually done extremely well in the past few years. Now, long term, maybe they won't, but the interest in sports betting has really increased everything. There's just more eyeballs on it. There's more search around that. So when you hear that, I don't think that's really true. We're seeing just more interest and more search for sports betting, and that's helping not just regulated operators but also offshore. And we also compete with offshore affiliates as well, who have been doing this much longer than even we have. Who've been they already own the search results and have been doing they then send traffic to offshore operators. So that's an education piece is, I think, super crucial, and it gets overlooked, and you're not going to see it from mainstream media. Again, I also work with mainstream media. There is a learning curve for them. They'll get an email from a Bet Online or a Bovada and report on those odds because that's a source they've been in their inbox for a long time. So I'm here to say, hey, look, this is what's going on in the legal market. Our sites do the same thing. Here are the things that are happening in the US, then here are the operators that are regulated and legal. So for me, that the education piece is why we're truly indispensable. You're not going to get that education piece, I don't think, without a robust affiliate market.
Okay, interesting. My next question would be sort of for Catena Media. What's your strategy for new state launches? I mean, how would you sort of identify and resource your plans?
I mean, right now we're scaling at a pace that we're trying to keep up with it, because I don't think you could possibly be too ready for anything. Again, we've backstopped sites for a long time to be ready for future markets, and we have a mix without giving up our secret sauce. I mentioned we have regional sites, we have national sites that deal with this, being ready for, we're looking at New York could legalize this year or sometime in the near future. I would probably bet against it happening this year, but being ready for that, not just you don't start. You're not going to succeed by starting when a state passes a law. If you're starting, like, let's say New York passes a law in June, like if you're starting in June, you're way behind. Our company and others are preparing for New York and other states right now. So, you do that by, doing news about the site, doing news about what's going on in New York, building pages about what's going on in New York. And again, I don't think this is secret sauce. I think, if you're in this, you're doing that. You should, but again, you're also working against, we're going against people who are doing content about New York sports betting and says, hey, you can bet right now in at Bovada or Bet Online. Maybe New York's not the best example because they've actually pulled out of New York in most cases. But in other states, like the search results will say, you'll get a mix of our kind of content and other affiliates in the space. You'll get a mix of operator content who are regulated, and then you'll get offshore operators who are saying, hey, yes, we take US customers and you can bet. You're in Oregon, come bet at Bet Online, or on an affiliate says, we're doing legal, you can bet legally in Oregon. Here, go to these sites. So that there's all of that, and it's a mixture depending on what's going on. Now, I think Google and search engines are adjusting to that and identifying what those regulated markets are and who is dealing with them. We're even seeing like regulators and like state pages about online sports betting, online casino getting. That's a bit of a reaction to what's going on with the pandemic and misinformation around governments. But like government sites about what's going on in online gambling are actually ranking very well because of that right now. So there's all of that, and we try to be ahead of the game. The pace of it is, we're right now we're tracking probably a dozen or so states that are legalizing, but you need to be looking ahead at that right now. I think, if you're going to be prepared as an affiliate, and I know operators are looking forward to it as well. You're not waiting for a law to be passed to be ready for a California or a Texas or a New York. You're trying to do. We're going to get into that more, but you're trying to do that now to be prepared for the world where a state has legal sports betting.
Oh, so I guess you've kind of mitigated the uncertain nature of that state-by-state rollout.
I don't know if we've mitigated. I mean, we try. It's not. Again, it's not a magic bullet to say you do everything I said and suddenly it works. Like there's a ton of competition, both from what I said, and again, I see the offshore affiliates doing the same thing. They are using news about the regulated market to establish authority and then send players to a Bovada or a Bet Online, which is disappointing to me, but not surprising. So we're dealing with that as well. Like I have instances where I've talked to or lawmakers we've talked to for the Legal Sports Report or one of our regional sites, and they'll talk to an offshore affiliate who has no interest in sending traffic or helping the regulated market. They're doing news to establish authority. So, that's what you're going against so I wouldn't say we've mitigated it, but being ready, being ahead is, I think that's the name of the game, and that's why we've succeeded.
Yeah, I do notice a lot of copycat sites, sites that look a lot like yours actually springing up. So
No, it's
across
funny because
the
the one I think of is don't go visit the site, please. It's called Legal Sports Betting. People think I run it and have messaged me saying, hey, can you change this in the story? I'm like, not my site. They're an offshore affiliate. They have nothing to do with me. But it sounds like Legal Sports Report, right? And we spurn copycats because it works, right?
yeah, that makes
It's
yeah.
there's we've shown that like doing what we've done produces results. It establishes authority, and it has resulted in a lot of that, both offshore and in the regulated market.
Okay. I mean, sort of this patchwork of different regulations and marketing rules, it's a pretty tricky landscape to navigate for sort of startups or, operators looking to enter this space. I mean, you're as a marketing partner, what advice would you have here?
Well, from the affiliate side, you do have to be registered in a lot of these states. It's a varying level. Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes you have to get your key employees fingerprinted. I have not yet been fingerprinted for for any gaming regulation, but like Pennsylvania, for instance, is one of the most stringent there. But yeah, I mean, even if you're an affiliate, I think you need to have somebody working on compliance. From the operator side, you clearly do. The big guys have a whole staff of people who only deal with compliance, because this is you have to basically, for those who are in Europe, you basically have to think of a state as a new country, right? Every state is slightly different. While there are things that cross borders, but you're creating basically the operators are creating a version of their app and site that's tailored to the laws and regulations and to customers in any given state where they launch. So, if you're a smaller operator, that either as an affiliate or that you'd be aware of that. And it's not, it's for us, it's not a huge lift, but it takes some amount of time and effort. You can't just roll into a state, and say, oh, I'm going to start serving the state. You have to do some research and make sure you're ready for that day when you have to submit your application or become a vendor, because we are licensed in just about every state that has legal sports betting.
Yeah. If industry news, everyone's familiar. Anyone working in the industry is familiar with Online Poker Report and Legal Sports Report. A lot of that news kind of aims at an industry sort of B2B audience. I mean, how does that support the sort of wider sort of more consumer focused acquisition strategy on sites as Play and J?
Yes, so those national sites. Oh yeah, sorry. Those national sites, yes. That's to breed authority and to do, to provide again that information that I think is necessary. You could put up sites all day long, but if you're just aggregating news or you're copying what other people do, then you have a limited amount of exposure you're going to get. I come from a newspaper and a journalism background, and kind of fell into the affiliate space here, but I'm a believer that the better the news you do and the better job you do that, and the better original reporting you do, the more successful you're going to be. And we carry that over to the regional sites. There is more consumer facing content. We'll do like content about promotions, or like bet $1 get 100 at DraftKings or things like that. No, we certainly do that, but we still do serious industry reporting. We do content about what's going on with the land-based gaming industry. We go with in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, what's going on in sports betting and online casino. We carry a little bit over from everywhere we do, because again, we know that works, and that authority that you establish on the front end pays off on the back end in terms of how you acquire customers and the quality of customers that you're providing to an operator.
Thanks, Dustin. I've just got a question in actually. So let's do an audience question as we go. I think it's good to mix them up a bit. How do you see the affiliate market developing? Do you believe new technology such as streaming has a role to play in Catina's US facing offering?
I'll say we have largely been a search and content, written content company to this date. There are people who are obviously doing more on everything else. We stick with our core competency. We branch out into video and that. Streaming. There are maybe as far as an acquisition method for what to acquire customers and send them out. I mean, streaming, I don't know. I don't know if, I mean, I don't think we're going to be in streaming, although we do some streaming slot content right now with operators. You know, even in Michigan, we did some launch that's more of a, I think it's more of a content play than a pure, again, creating good content that's interesting to people. And, you know, it might or might not convert. It's early days for us. We've actually even had a Twitch stream for quite a while where people play, you know, online casino games in New Jersey, and you know, it hasn't, you know, you can there are ways to try it. We haven't been super successful with it, but there's certainly things we're still very immature, and I don't think anybody's really done a ton of great video or streaming content. Like, I mean, we do, again, and we also, for the lines and play picks, where our sports betting consumer, we do a ton of sports betting podcasts and talking about the NFL and what's going on. It's not right now, it's not a huge conversion avenue, and I'd say, you know, even from our European business, you know, it's a content and engagement play, so it's worth doing, but it's not necessarily a direct way to monetize or to send traffic to partners.
Okay, so early days for that. Okay, sort of moving some wider sort of industry developments as well, and discuss those really. One of the big stories of the last 12 months is the rise of SPACs and SPVs focused on the US betting market. I mean, do you see this sort of private equity and venture capital driven activity around sports betting being restricted under this new administration? And if so, what impact do you see this having on the wider sports betting market?
I mean, so just the way the U.S. works and the Biden administration and what's going on, the federal level is very, you know, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot that happens at the federal level that changes anything. You know, the biggest thing is the Wire Act case, which we saw the little bit of backstory. The Department of Justice under the Trump administration said that the Wire Act, a 1961 law, applied to all forms of gambling that cross state lines. That opinion has been rebuffed now at 2 different levels of the federal court. We believe a Biden administration will not pursue that case and maybe even rescind guidance to go back to the world where the DOJ says the Wire Act only applies to sports betting and not to online casino and poker. So from that stand, I mean, I haven't got to your SPAC question yet, but that the role in the United States, you know, is the federal government plays a pretty limited role. It's largely a state by state endeavor. I don't think we're going to see anything at the federal level that's going to hinder the expansion of online gambling. And from the SPACs and all of that, I mean, that kind of came out of nowhere. DraftKings did a SPAC and did a basically reverse merger to go public. That is, I'm not sure if that bred the others, but there's a ton of money flowing from venture capital to cast about and find a way to be involved with online gambling, because it's obviously not just sports betting but online casino as well. It's a big opportunity in the United States. It's underfunded, and the technology is still catching up, but there are opportunities. We've seen several other of these in the online gambling space. Rush Street and Gold Nugget come to mind instantly in terms of those SPACs where money is investing into the online gambling space. So it'll be interesting to see where else this goes. There are a couple other of those casting about as well. There is a lot of money that people would like, as we see from gambling stocks, people want to put money into this space, and it is a space that's only going to grow. So, but at top level, the political climate is not going to hurt. It should only help what's going on in the United States.
Okay. Just going to move on to DFS actually, because the noise kind of around it subsided for a bit, obviously, when DraftKings and FanDuel moved into full-on wagering. But we've seen 2 targets between US casino stakeholders and DFS platforms in the last couple of days. Bally's and Monkey Knife Fight, and Caesars with Super Draft. So obviously, basically, the rationale, obviously, for DFS, DraftKings and FanDuel moving into that is because they bought large databases of DFS players in that they look to convert in every state. I mean, how does that impact you as an affiliate then, with that strategic rationale, obviously, following through with Bally's and Caesars now that they're getting these databases of players, obviously with the intention of converting them into sports wagerers? Does that impact you as a business?
I mean, I'll talk more generally about just the DFS play before I get into how it affects us. It is fascinating. We saw 2 deals in the same day getting into DFS, which, people, is a kind of a sidelight now, but it's still interesting and important, and I think it underlines the fact that Flutter was, well, Flutter now owns FanDuel, but the acquisition of FanDuel was done very smartly and very cheaply before all of this happens. Now there's an active court case about that as well going on, but and DraftKings, people were casting about, thinking about buying DraftKings well before, either before sports betting became legal and after, and like you like anybody who would have purchased either of those companies, that would have obviously been a great investment right now. For DraftKings and FanDuel are number 1 and 2 in the market in US pretty easily. Actually, reverse that, FanDuel and then DraftKings in terms of how much activity they have from wagers. But this underlines the fact that DFS is a placeholder for what's going to happen in states that don't have sports betting yet. So like what we just said, we're looking at the 4 largest states in the U.S. have not yet legalized online betting: New York, California, Texas, and Florida. And most of these sites, I'm not sure of the list for all of them, they serve these states. And the DFS games are sometimes verging on prop betting, but they seemingly fall under federal law and the game of skill laws in states without running afoul of sports wagering laws. So it's a line they're walking. I think it's a little bit dicey. But that's the play, right? Is to have customers and to be able to find customers before you're in those states, because it's a lot cheaper to acquire them as a daily fantasy sports player than it is as a sports bettor, and that goes for us as well. Like if you're an affiliate, you're not getting the same CPA for a daily fantasy sports customer as it is. But it widens the map, though, while you're waiting for any of these states. And some of them could be 5-10 years down the road from legalization, even though the pace has been really quick. So for us, we're still, we've been affiliated on DFS for a long time. We still are, and it's even though it's not the shiny new toy, it is. This is why DraftKings and FanDuel have won. They've had these databases that they can instantly convert over to sports betting at a high rate, and it generally turns into a lot of customers and a lot of revenue pretty quickly. So, and yeah, it goes for the affiliate side as well. If you don't, while you're waiting for a California, you can affiliate and you do daily fantasy sports and target those customers in the preparation for that day when sports betting is legal. So that's the play, is being ready. Again, the theme that we talked about earlier was being ready for the future.
Yeah. I've got a question in from Pontus Sandberg. How are the affiliation possibilities with the regulated operators? Are they as prepared for affiliates as more established operators?
I mean, everybody's learning on the fly, I think. The companies that have come over from Europe have varying levels of interest in affiliation. Some see the value in it, some do not. We do not work with everyone. The big one that is a little dicey on affiliation is 365. They do affiliation, but that's not their number 1 priority or a huge line item in their budget. But we've seen some evolution here, I think. DraftKings and FanDuel, again, they were already doing this in DFS. It was a natural move over to sports betting when they did it, and they've seen good results from us and other affiliates for sure. We've seen MGM as well has been went from a legacy, MGM Resorts, a huge casino company focused on land-based gaming, has had a sports betting app in Nevada for a long time. Not really, this wasn't their world, and they have a joint venture with Entain, formerly GPC, and they've gotten into the affiliation space. So, for me, it's what I see is the smaller operators. If you're not ready to pay for customers up front, you're seeing less of that. Or if you don't know the LTV of your customer, we're seeing, it's strange, because I think some of those smaller operators would probably benefit the most from acquiring customers, but I don't think we've seen a ton of them. You obviously have to have cash sitting around to do that, but you also, if you need to acquire a customer who you know and what you should be able to get out of them. But that upfront cost is sometimes a bit too much to bear to pay for a customer upfront, because I mean, here in the U.S., this is not, you can do revenue share or you can do a CPA where you pay for a player upfront, and we are, I think, 100% still a CPA model, and we don't do revenue share. So it's interesting. There's been an evolution of affiliates already in just these 2.5 years of legal sports betting, of who's willing to do it, and learning the value of working with affiliates in terms of providing high value customers.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. And I've got one here from Simon. How are you dealing with the technical burdens and regulatory inconsistency when you're trying to be compliant with all the specifications of individual states?
So again, I think we don't have a ton of, it's not terribly different for us in any market. I don't think there's been a huge regulatory burden. I mean, we target our affiliation to who's in a state. You know, I don't think geo-targeting is revealing any kind of secret sauce either, but you know, staying on top of what we're expected as affiliates to do, it's not terribly difficult. I mean, the biggest one that I see is that there are people who straddle the worlds between offshore and not offshore, and New Jersey has made it clear that you can't do both. You have to pick. Other states, you might be able to get away with it. You might get licensed as a vendor, and nobody gives you the due diligence, and you might be able to do both. It's obviously cleaner and it's going to not involve problems if you only affiliate in the regulated market. So we don't have a ton of the technical and all of that. I mean, it's much more burdensome on the operators than it is on affiliates. When I didn't mean to scare people with with the regulation that we face. And so again, sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not. But it's from a technical standpoint and meeting the rules that are set up for affiliates. It's not terribly. We don't spend a ton of time dealing with and figuring out what to do. It's again just making sure we're licensed, that we're following the baseline guidance, and I don't think there's a whole lot of the technical stuff here in the US that really slows anyone down.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. I've got a question from Riku. Your take on Barstorm. I mean, how do you see them doing long term as they don't accept affiliates?
Oh man, we could do a whole webinar just on Barstool, I think. But
I've seen some of your tweet.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I think they'll change their stance to become #1 in the country, or happy to stick with their original plan?
I mean, look. I'm not a fan of Barstool Sports, the company, but they have a real chance to do something well here to do well in the United States. They have, the partnership with Penn gives them a footprint across the United States. They are now live in both Pennsylvania and Michigan. They will be live in other states sometime in 2021. I think they're going to do well. They're already number 3 in terms of handle in Pennsylvania. Last month they were number 1 in terms of revenue, somehow holding 20% in the last month that we saw reported, which is a crazy number for sports betting, obviously. But they have a chance to cut into the number 1 and number 2, I think, for sure, long term. Right now their model is just turn on the lights and get their existing fans in the door. I don't think that's going to work long term. They're going to have to do more. They are not working with affiliates, to my knowledge, anywhere in the U.S. And this is not why I badmouth Barstool, if anybody wonders. I don't know that I necessarily badmouth them. I just I think the initial rollout has been underwhelming. They only launched in 1 state. I mean, if they get more, we have to see them scale, and we have to see them do this in other states, and what happens. And they're going against an established market in other states. They're not live in New Jersey, for instance. So I don't know what they do if they launch into a relatively mature market in New Jersey. What does that look like, and how do they cut into that? So they are going to be on equal footing in other states. They are in Michigan, so we'll get a really good sense when we first see the first Michigan numbers come out of where they are. So I'm not sure I'm bearish or bullish on them. I think they are going to be a player in the US market for sure. Is their ceiling number 1? I don't, long term maybe, if they do everything right. But if they are convinced that and I don't have any insight in exactly what they're thinking behind closed doors, but if they're only going to just say, oh, we're just going to convert our fans, not do anything else, not do any other external marketing, not work with affiliates. I think their ceiling is probably lower than number one, but I suspect over time they'll learn that they need to do a little bit more than what they're doing, and or maybe I'll just be wrong. It won't be the first time that I'll have been wrong, but they could very well. I mean, they have a shot at being number one in the U.S. right now, but we're talking 3-4 years down the road.
Okay, I have a follow-up from Rick, who's followed that up with, I'm up for it, man. I don't know. I'm not sure if he works there. Anyway, okay, moving on. We're currently in the middle of a marketing blitz aimed at recreational players in the regulated US markets. Do you think this has, to some extent, obscured the importance of pricing and of the product in the better decision making, i.e., who they decide to bet with? And how do you see this changing as the onshore market matures and becomes more competitive?
Yeah, I'm a big, I guess, whether proponent or opponent of it is the right word, but I don't think pricing is terribly important in the United States right now. It gets made a big deal about in industry circles and with people who are sharp bettors who've been better for a long time. Oh, I line shop. The average recreational user is just wants to get down on a game, right? It's not, it's you're not looking around at all the sports books and trying to get the best line. You just want to bet. You want to have a good experience. What that part of it is definitely, I think, has been overblown in some circles. There's a point at which it does become, it gets out of hand. I think everybody can look at the micro example of Gambit in DC, the only app in Washington DC, spreads lines of -1 to 18 and more. I think you may not look at a line and say, man, that's bad, but you're going to realize pretty quickly that you're not getting a very good return on your even bets, and that's the point at which price comes into it. So, the marketing blitz and the existing database is really, I'm not in one of these markets, but I know people who are, and every place where there is sports betting, you are bombarded with the top operators, with commercials, with marketing on actual broadcasts. Like if it started in New Jersey and Philly, like you get in Pennsylvania where Philadelphia is, you get you watch a Phillies or a Sixers broadcast, you're getting PointsBet, you're getting DraftKings, you're getting all of these companies either on a commercial or in game or any of it. You're getting bombarded with this stuff. BetMGM, like I mentioned earlier, is really aggressive on commercials and marketing and digital advertising. So like it's almost saturation now, because they're even for watching sports broadcasts, you're getting bombarded with this, I think, pretty well everywhere. So that part it's interesting, and it provides tailwinds for search as well, because people are looking for then information about these brands that they see, when they see a DraftKings or a PointsBet mention on a broadcast, then they're going and searching for it, and not always just going straight to the operator. So it's been interesting to see that dynamic, but I definitely think that product will be important. We didn't get into product yet. Pricing, definitely less so. Maybe in a more mature market where people kind of learn more about what's going on. But product is important. If you want to get on the app, and it sounds silly, but the app should work, and the app should give you should be able to get down on live betting. You should be like, if you want to place a live bet, if that works, that's a good experience. Like, there's so much of, I think a lot of it is tied up in experience right now. If you're not creating a good experience right away, there are in many states there's a lot of different operators. So if you're not getting that good experience when you're in your first time or your early days with a sports book, maybe you're looking elsewhere. So I do think product is important, because the product has to work, and the product has to be engaging and make you want to come back to it. And that, I'm not sure every operator has that platform right now. Again, many of the top ones do, and that's part of their success.
Yeah, definitely. So just want to move on to the involvement of traditional media in the US gaming space. Do you see affiliates in the US facing a level of competition from entities that you've just not seen in other markets?
I mean, we're seeing a lot of this already. I could bore you with the giant list of media companies that are working with folks, but like we already see Yahoo working with MGM only, for instance. I see USA Today and The Athletic, and they're working. Like The Athletic right now is hiring a bazillion sports betting people to do exactly what, I'm not sure, but obviously create sports betting content. Right now, so far the model for traditional media has been take the advertising dollars and not be a true affiliate or be a partner of one operator, I would not say that's the right model. If I was running what a traditional sports media company, I would look at being more of a true affiliate. I think USA Today's gone that way a little bit. But we're seeing it is competition though, because these are giant media companies that if they get their butts in gear, they could be very good at being affiliates. But it takes a will to say yes, we're going to do this, and not just take again, a partnership is easy. Like Yahoo just said, every time they're doing an odds content, they're putting BetMGM odds on it, and goes from there. So if I were, for instance, if I were ESPN, they have a deal with Caesars and William Hill. If I were ESPN, I'd become a sportsbook probably first, but two, I would not just take the advertising dollars. I'd find a way. I'd just become an affiliate, and I don't think anybody from ESPN is going to take my advice. But that's what I would do. I would not, there's a much higher upside than just taking the low hanging banner advertising and partnership information. That's part of the advantage of what we do is like we're not tied. Like we do content about anybody we want. We're like, whether they're a partner or not. We go after the search based on what we see in search, and we go after that traffic. So, we don't work with Barstool, but there's a ton of traffic around Barstool. So we do start content about Barstool and what's going on there. So it's they are a threat to traditional affiliates. I think for sure. You'd be silly to discount them. It's still none of them have gotten super serious about it, but if they did and exerted the will in the U.S. market, I think they'd be a major player.
Okay, interesting. Another question from Jeffrey, who's asking, can you go into a little bit more depth on the licenses that you need to be an affiliate and any ongoing compliance requirements? It has to be a little bit light touch on the compliance requirements, more of a legal question, but yeah, anything you can say, Jeffrey, on that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, again, it's there's no blanket statement I can make other than I think every state that currently has sports betting, you have to at least you have to be a vendor. So this is a lower level of regulation and backstopping than you would as an operator. But you have to get that vendor license so that you can send traffic. And this is sometimes all the way down to like banner advertising, even if it's not a CPA model. It could just be if you want to advertise, you have to be. I think that's the way it is in Indiana, for instance. So you have to fill out paperwork. Again, the most onerous one that I know of is Pennsylvania in terms of being a licensed affiliate. It's fairly easy in a lot of other states, but you do need to get in touch with regulators. You do need to fill out the paperwork. You need to can you do it without a lawyer? Maybe, but I'm sure there are small shops in the U.S. that do it. We have people who work just on compliance and making sure the ongoing requirements. It's making sure your license are up to date. And from the affiliate teams for sports books and online casinos, they need to know that you're a vendor too. So they're looking at that and making sure you are a licensed vendor, because if they're not, then they can get in trouble for working with somebody who's not licensed. So you have to have those squared away before you do anything and start like casting about for deals or trying to promote somebody. So I think that again, I don't think again, maybe I've made it scarier than it sounds, but you do need to you're dealing. We're talking about all the states that have online betting. They all have a different regulator, a different licensing structure, different paperwork you have to sign. It's not like you fill in one and you're like, oh, I'm done for all these states. You have to do that compliance in every state. You have to be aware that you have to go back and pay maybe a renewal fee and things like that. So you need to have somebody keeping an eye on it to make sure you're above board all the time.
Okay, you've actually answered one of the other questions that came in as well, so that's good. About which state was particularly difficult. Obviously, corralling expert opinions on how sort of the year ahead could unfold has become a bit of a fixture for B2B publications like ourselves. As someone who monitors developments and speaks to stakeholders daily, I'd like to finish with a few questions on how you see the market sort of shaking out this year. Steve, I think we're roughly about 15 states, aren't we, for online sports betting, I think. So, I mean, how do you see many more? How many do you predict for the year ahead? Would you put your neck out on that? How many we might get to in 2021?
Yeah, so the number we use, we have 20 states plus DC that have some form of sports betting. The number with online is lower than that. As far as new states with online betting, mean, we have all the launches. All the launches are hay is in the barn. So we have everybody. You know, we had Michigan and Virginia just goes live. That's I think kind of it for 2021 in terms of new launches. Everybody else has, you know, Maryland, Louisiana are the easiest ones to pick out of this list. They have already passed referenda that allow in Maryland statewide and Louisiana most of the state can have online sports betting. They need to go back and pass affirming legislation and regulatory legislation to say how sports betting is going to happen, because it's not just, oh, we're going to open the doors. So we were looking at legislation happening probably in both those states. You know, anything could happen. Even that's not a done deal, even though they have this referendum to say, yes, we're going to do sports betting. You know, beyond that, we're going to get, I'm going to say less than a handful. I think before the year started, I said 3.5 states would legalize online sports betting this year. That might even feel low to me now. I feel like I think it's 5 is the over under that I'd set on that in terms of what's going on. And again, that's with some states that have already, you know, passed something in the past for retail betting. Some of those, there's not a whole lot of will to change that to online betting. So those are difficult to see wins. So it's, you know, whether we see New York actually get off its butt and do something, whether Texas gets something done. They only meet every 2 years, so if they don't do it this year, it's in a couple years. So I'm always pessimistic on what we're doing. I mean, I've been absolutely shocked at the pace. You know, in 2018, 2019, with the number of states that passed anything, you know, it was kind of shocking. And then now we're in a world where, you know, states are looking. You know, this is the dynamic in New York. States are looking for new revenue streams. So it's, you know, sports betting revenue will be a rounding error in the New York budget. But as you're negotiating a budget and trying to not cut taxes one place, not raise taxes one place, and then not cut programs in another, you're like, oh, we can get several $100 million from sports betting if we legalize it. You know, and I'm always a proponent, like, sports betting is the big thing, but online casino generally is a much bigger opportunity. It's a much bigger opportunity in New Jersey. It's more than double the amount of revenue of late. So it's mind blowing, but there's still a narrative out there that online casino is going to cannibalize the land-based casino industry. That's been anything but the case in both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And in the pandemic where casinos have been closed or limited in capacity, like online casino has made a difference. It's made a difference in everybody's bottom line and the receipts from state taxes. So I don't think that's good. I don't think that will still exist in online casino, although there actually are some states that are looking at it this year. But sports betting, you know, I'd say 4 or 5 possible, and I'd probably still be pessimistic, and I'd be happy to be proven wrong if we get more than that legalizing in this year.
Okay, that's great. So just sort of leading on from that, so in terms of there is this sort of this attitude, isn't it? But this misconception, I guess, in many ways, that casino, the cannibalization of casino of the land-based venues. I mean, do you think it's going to become more of a component this year as the sort of evidence comes in that isn't the case, or do you think it's just going to continue to be slower than betting?
I just think it's going to be slower because it's just, you know, sports betting was new, right? Sports betting didn't exist, and it's like, oh, this is new, it's new revenue, it's something that we didn't do before. It was an easy sell in state legislatures. The online casino, not as easy a sell, unfortunately. It's, you know, we are, but, you know, I've even been surprised at how many states are looking at it. I mean, we have Indiana, Iowa, Connecticut, maybe Massachusetts. All of them, you know, they've dallied with this a bit in the past, but all of them have something going on around online casino and online poker on top of sports betting. Most Iowa and Indiana, for instance, actually have online sports betting already. Massachusetts and Connecticut do not. They're looking at, both of those states are looking at kind of omnibus solutions where they would do all of it at once, which again, we've seen it work in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. It's definitely going to work in Michigan as well. So there's those possibilities. Illinois, I see as a possibility. They've actually even passed online casino through one chamber in the past. They have Rush Street owns Rivers Casino near Chicago. We talked about them as one of the SPACs out there. So maybe Illinois becomes something that gets talked about in the next year or two. So I don't want to be too overly optimistic, but there is a little bit more will than I've seen in the past, and you got to, and you see the revenue that's being generated. Again, it's going to outstrip sports betting pretty much everywhere. So if you're looking for new revenue, I would definitely say you should be looking at casino as a way to do that, and not just sports betting.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Seth. what are the big differences? Are there any big differences, he asked, between being a sports affiliate versus a casino affiliate versus a lottery affiliate, etc.? I guess you'd be able to answer on the first two, so sports.
Oh, sure. No, actually, we work with lotteries too, where there are online lotteries. So, I mean,
okay.
So, yeah, I mean, the differences aren't great. I mean, you're obviously targeting different customers, different content. You know, you're a sports bettor and a casino, while there is cross sell when you get them in the door. Like somebody who's looking to become an online casino player, definitely not the same as a sports bettor and the information that they're looking for and what they're doing. And obviously those online casino players obviously much more valuable to an operator than just a sports bettor for the reasons we talked about, because there's more revenue there, right? So you know, I mean, the differences in tailoring your message and your content to those different to those different audiences. Lottery, same way. Lottery, somebody who wants to play an online lottery, not the same as a casino player or a sports bettor either. So you have to really, you can't just, here, I'm giving you every gambling option on the planet, you go choose one you want. That's not how it works. I think that's, again, not secret sauce and pretty obvious to people. But for, I mean, sports betting on casino, same own, you have to be a vendor, you have to be licensed. Lottery is a little bit different. I'm not sure I can speak to the exact logistics, but you know, there is online lottery in several states. I can tell you that Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia all work with affiliates, and it doesn't, you know, you get vetted by the lottery there, but you're not like, it's not the same as, you know, signing up for, you know, being a vendor for a casino or a sports betting operator, or you don't, there is a vetting process, but I'm not sure it raises to the level. Maybe somebody knows. I'm not speaking from a place of a total confidence in that. I just know we work with them, and I'm not sure, but it's not the same onus as being a vendor for casino and sports betting.
Okay. Otherwise, I want to touch on is M&A in the affiliate sector. Catena obviously grew through acquisition, but feels that activity sort of tailed off across the industry in the last couple of years. Do you think there's scope for more deals? Do you think there's like already an established order, especially in the States, that's now hard to disrupt through M&A?
Oh, absolutely. There's absolutely going to be M&A. I'm actually shocked it slowed down. I mean, there are small ones, not even small ones. I mean, we saw Crossing Broad, and their network was recently acquired in the US for.
ESL Media just did one as well, didn't they, Dustin? CBWG.
Yeah, so it's happening. It's not, you know, I think there's going to be consolidation at some point too. I mean, I'm not privy to say or whether, or I mean, what we're going to do, but I'd be shocked if there's not, you know, some consolidation in the market, because, you know, there are lots of competitors, and not all of them are going to win. Some of them are looking to do well early and cash out, and you know, a larger company like us or a better collective will come in and probably buy those operators at some point when it makes sense. You know, a better collective is another one where they was kind of an acqui-hire where they bought the U.S. operations of a bunch of sites like ours, and but those were obviously now several years ago. But I think there's going to be more of that, and you know, as the European affiliates look at this, they're going to be looking at what can we buy to quickly, you know, building something from scratch. That's what we've done. It's hard and it takes a lot of work. It's much cheaper. I mean, not much cheaper. It's much easier to buy something that's already established. It's definitely not cheaper because you're paying multiples of revenue to get it done. But there's going to be, at some point, it's got to happen. I think, you know, whether we're involved in the consolidation or not, like people are, you know, the smaller or on the rise affiliates, they're going to be acquired or merge, or you know, because there's synergy in all of that. So I mean, there are more affiliates in the U.S. than there ever have been. The competition is fierce, and you know, you're not all going to win. And again, some would just want to, you know, want the payday early and say, like the work to become a top affiliate in any market is you know, it doesn't just happen naturally. It's a lot of hard work. So we'll see. But you know, I'd be shocked if there's not some M&A and consolidation in the U.S.
Yeah. Okay. We'll look out for that for sure. We're sort of coming to the end of the hour now, actually. So everyone else listening, if this is your last chance to get any questions in for Dustin. Okay. I think I'm just scrolling through. I think I've reached the end of mine as well, actually. So now is definitely your last chance. So anyway, okay, Dustin, I think we're going to wrap things up now. I think thanks again for your time. I think it's been a brilliant discussion. Thanks again for a brilliant discussion, Dustin. We've now got to our listeners. You can continue to send any questions you may have through, and we can address these afterwards and send them on to Dustin as well. So if you're a bit late and you missed a cut, feel free to send those in as well. That's all we have time for today. Again, thank you, Dustin, for joining us and sharing your insight. Today's webinar has been recorded and be available to listen to on demand shortly on igamingbusiness.com, so you can re-watch and share that with your colleagues. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay.